So, a very good morning to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and welcome to News Check on this Monday morning, the 19th day of July. It's the year 2021. We have day 9 of the interviews for the Iebc candidates for the Iebc commissioners, and the interview that has just concluded is Professor Michael Napo Ilukwol Lokoruka from Turkana County. He has a PhD in food science. He is a food scientist. That is what he studied throughout his university days. He is the Director of Research and Innovation and Extension at the Karatina University and was a member of the Public Service Commission from 2013 to 2019. And he has provided consultancy and training services for the former Ministry of Northern Kenya and other arid lands, ACT Kenya, the Canadian food industry, Turkana and Marsabit County governments, Turkana North constituency, and the Center for Minority Rights and Development. So the interviews now take a break and they will resume after half an hour. And the next candidate to be interviewed is going to be Advocate Murshid Abdullah Mohammed. He's from Mombasa County and has served as a member of the National Police Service Commission from 2012 to 2018. He was a member of the Independent Interim Boundaries Review Commission from 2008 to 2009. Basically, it was known as the Legal Commission, and he was also one of the candidates for the Iebc chairperson when the IEBC was formed by the Constitution of Kenya 2010. He was one of the candidates for the office of chairperson in the year 2011. Well, we'll be getting a conversation about the role that the commissioners have got to play, and from previous elections and going as recent as some of the by-elections that we have had, what the commissioners have got to do as a role, knowing that the legal background changed, especially after a decision was made as to where the presidential result is announced or where it is declared, such that the commissioner's work is now tallying and overall oversight of the electoral process. And to get into that conversation, we're joined by Advocate Charles Omanga. Our sign language interpreter has been Susan Thuku. We shall be joined by Lenta Odingo shortly. Advocate, good morning.
Good morning.
Counsel, first of all, from the history of the IEBC as it is and the regulations that have been put in place, looking at the Electoral Law, the IEBC Act, the Election of Offences Act, and also now that after the 2017 elections, we are going to have the Election Finances Act basically coming into force. What is, from the overall picture, the immediate challenge or the immediate task that the 4 commissioners who are going to be appointed will have to embark on?
Thank you very much, Daniel. I think the most important and very fundamental is that the commissioners, and more important, the commission overall, should ensure, because the Elections Act, the IEBC Act, provide for certain basic principles that actually guides and ensures what the day-to-day running and what should the commission do. And more fundamentally, you remember there is something that is very key, the audit of the presidential elections. We have not done that audit since the 2017 election. You heard about the issue of servers being in France and all those sorts of things.
Actually, it was a recommendation by an audit from KPMG, I think.
Of course.
Yes.
But we have not done that. So for us to going forward to ensure that actually all those ills, that the queries and the issues that are always raised during presidential elections, the issues of audit of our presidential election or general elections is very, very key. So going forward, what the commissioner should ensure, those who, at least the interviews are ongoing, those things like audit and ensuring voter education, they must ensure that there is mechanisms that are put in place to ensure that voters are sufficiently and reliably educated so that they really know what is the role of a voter. Because voting is not just a mere process, but there must be
an event where you just cast the ballot.
Yes, it is a process. It is an entire process that must be preceded by voter education, voter engagement, and all those sorts of things. So going forward, and more fundamental, is that the commissioners must ensure that there must be accountable, not only to the commission or to those who are participating in the electoral process, but they must be accountable to Kenyans and the voters.
And you want to mention about that, and after the 2017 election and conversation to the Iebc and observer groups and that were all around, one of the things that was asked is to strengthen and sufficiently fund voter education programs. What's required by law? The Iebc is an independent commission. It is now up to them to go make their plea to the Treasury and also have it approved by the National Assembly.
The government should know that the role of Iebc is very, very important. And just like voter registration, which should be a continuous process, voter education is something that they are tied at the hip. Voter registration, which is continuous voter registration, should also be accompanied by continuous voter education. And the issues of finances, the Treasury should ensure that Iebc is sufficiently funded, because actually we should not wait for the issue of commissioners. You know, this is an issue that has been raised, it has gone to court about the quorum at the Iebc, but those who do the task, the elephant task at Iebc, is the secretariat. The secretariat is intact. They can ensure that they organize continuous voter education, so that the commissioners themselves are not really the people who should always go to the ground to educate people. The secretariat is in place, very well functional, so they should ensure that voters are continuously educated, so that because we are getting new people, those who voted in 2017, there is a whole bunch, almost over 5 million new voters that will participate in the upcoming general elections in August 2022. So they should be educated, because at least those who have been participating in the voting previously have already, if at all, those who at least were privileged enough to be educated have that education. So voter education is key, and those are among the recommendations of KPMG. And they have not been, I have never seen Iebc people walking around trying to even conduct town hall meetings, trying to conduct voter education.
Well, I'll be coming about to, the role about voter registration, but voter education is so interesting because there's the challenge of language in this country. There are counties which would be predominantly single language. If you go to Nyeri County, it's predominantly the Gikuyu people. If you go to Wajir, it's predominantly the Somali people. If you go to a county, say, like Kisii, it's predominantly the Gusii people. The question then is, outside of the 4 languages set out in the Constitution, English, Swahili, Sign Language, and Braille, how much should be done in the local language so that the rights of a voter are not taken away from them on voting day?
What should be done, and actually I think it is an oversight on the part of the Commission, is that we must ensure that, because communication is a universal solvent where each and everything dissolved. So if we do not actually ensure that we communicate, and what I mean by communication is effective communication, where you get a feedback. Someone must actually respond to what you're communicating. But what Iebc has not really done is that they have not actually tried to embrace, if you walk around, what is basically is that you speak Swahili or English. But these other 2 languages, Sign Language and Braille, the Commission, from where I sit, that is my own independent observation, is that they have never been, because we walk around, we believe in this country. I've never seen where they are actually emphasizing and actually even training some of their staff to ensure that the voter, those who cannot actually speak these predominant language, national languages, either English or Swahili, are actually educated. It has always been left to the families of those who are accompanying these individuals, these voters, to polling station. So actually what is very, very important is that Iebc, the Commission, must ensure going to the next election to ensure that people are sufficiently educated so that they know, what should I do? What is my right? So that the police, because you see now the role of the police in the electoral process is basically to ensure that everybody is secure. The Iebc staff is secure, the materials are secure, but not really to interfere and try to take over the role of Iebc personnel to actually try to guide people on what they should do. So if there is sufficient voter education, and everyone knows, there would be a very, very smooth process whereby there would be no issues raised or some people were denied, or they could not understand. And issues of even wrongly marked ballots will not come into play. We will have very few rejected votes because people are educated, they know what to do, how to take, whether it is to mark a tick or an X and where. And that is the role of IEBC.
Something else that needs to be dealt with is the case of defining hate speech and the related penalties that people should know. This is from the voters' part. Not even those people, because ideally for you to contest for any political seat in the country, you must first be a voter. Yeah. You must qualify to be a voter. Then how do you do this and at the same time make sure that special interest groups are taken care of? You may have physically challenged people, you may have the elderly, or you may have or even the case of expectant women.
What should be done actually going forward? At least we must also appreciate that we've walked up a journey, and the gains we have actually made certain steps that actually must be lauded. But in terms of ensuring the issues of special interest groups, the Constitution is very clear about that, and that is the guiding law, that each and every person has a right, and we ensure that the rights of minority groups, special interest groups, should not only be ensured in terms of appointments or the day-to-day running of government, but in terms of even participating in the electoral process, that is voting. So how do we ensure this is that it all again boils down to the education and ensuring that these special interest groups, they should not also just feel that we are neglected, we are not at par with the normal society. But when this education is done, they will be active, they will know we also have a right, we also have a voice, and we must actively participate.
Now, another part of training, and this is more of internal, it's the training for staff who are there. Every time there is first the secretariat. How much work does the commission have to do to ensure that the secretariat is effectively functional and that all the county elections coordinators are aware of every change in law or change in policy as soon as it is implemented?
Time is running so fast, and we have managed to make a society of a crying society, a lamenting society. You saw the chairman of the IEBC, Mr. Wafula Chebukati, complaining about the issues of funding. So it is always like there is the political sides trying to pull, those who are blaming, those who are trying to encourage the commission, but they are complaining and issues, and actually I think it is by design, because we know we are heading to another electoral cycle. And then the IEBC is still complaining about the issues of financing. And they say the commission cannot really train its staff if they are not funded. These things boil down to finances. So if we are complaining and the political players, either the opposition or those who are in government, are not ensuring that these are the people who will ensure a level playground, a level play field, and they are not really trying to agitate to ensure that the commission is fully functional with a properly trained staff and a fully funded secretariat and very well trained and equipped commissioners and the commission. So if we continue complaining and we are less than at least 13 months to the next general election, it means then we will still have a lot of issues coming up, because these coordinators, each and every person participating in terms of overseeing election must be fully and must be satisfied, so that there is no any complaint and there is no any excuse from part of the commission.
Now, Advocate Charles Omanga with us in conversation about the interviews for the commissioners and the task ahead for them, and one of them is education and making sure that the processes there are straight, are very clear to everyone involved. The next one that come up, and this is after the recommendations that were made, is that around 8,000 to 10,000 people will be involved, over 10,000 when it comes to the elections, and they've got to be recruited specifically, especially for the presidential and general elections. We're talking about the presiding officers at the polling stations, the returning officers at constituency level, and the returning officers at county level. Then the Secretariat takes care of the National Tallying Center. What's the recruitment process that should be required of this group of people from the lessons that IEBC has had from running 2 general elections?
You know, we've had a lot of challenges, and actually for the previous 2 general elections, they have never been smooth. They have always been contested. And the reason, one of the contributing factors about why these elections have always been contested is because there is complaints against these officers, either the returning officer or the presiding officers,
or even the polling clerk,
or even the polling clerk. And because these clerks, they are always if there is too much pressure on them, because ordinarily there would be pressure on them, because 2 contesting sides would always try to really put pressure to ensure that they steal the show. So if these people are trained and actually they have been informed about their independence and how critical their role is in the entire electoral process, because they carry, at that particular time, they carry the country on their shoulders. So they must be people who really understand, who are selfless, people who have demonstrable character that could not really be. And that also goes to the people who are being interviewed to take over for the position of the 4 commissioners. They must be people of character. They must be people that have demonstrable independence, that actually would not really be persuaded or be trying to be inclined based on their own political positions, because they are also human beings. They are also registered voters, you know, and they also belong to this country. They are also citizens. So actually, if we have a commission that actually would really understand its mandate, would really not be persuaded by political inclinations or bow down to political pressure either from the government or the opposition, then we would have a very smooth electoral process, just like in other countries.
And one of the tasks that is there for the new commission is to protect especially the 290 constituency returning officers. And this is because a decision was made about the declaration specifically for the presidential election, the famous Form 34B. Yeah. It is said that once a declaration is made, then it is final. The function of the National Tallying Center is not to verify, but it is just to do the addition. How much protection do the returning officers at the constituency level require, and how much education? Because the commission now has got to implement that.
You know, the minor KI decision is a very, very important decision, because but it is only that we have embraced the culture of disobedience of court orders. The court directs, you know, courts, judiciary is also an arm of government.
One of the 3.
There are 3: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And now what happens is that the executive have always that executive overreach, and it believes that it is the topmost, that it doesn't care what parliament says, what judiciary says, and that is a very, very wrong culture, and that is a culture that we really need to deal with. The constituency results.
The cabinet secretary for the interior say that they will strive to obey court orders.
Him himself, he has disobeyed so many court orders, actually. Anyway, that aside, the most fundamental thing is a decision has been made that presidential results, the results declared at the constituency level is final. The famous Form 34 there should not even arise again, because their work is now just to tabulate. But you realize that in most occasions we still wait that once it has been verified and has been declared at the constituency level, you realize that at the Bomas of Kenya there is also now another result. And these are what always drive us to contested elections, because the law and the decision of the courts have guided us that the result declared at the constituency level for presidential results is final. So it is not the work of the commission or to decide which results to take. The work is now to collate, to tabulate, and declare.
So, and in that case, how much of empowerment has to, and protection, and at times, and I mean physical, if need be, needs then to be given to a constituency returning officer, because if you look at all the chaos that we have around elections, they're mainly around one, the presidential one, yet we have 6.
Why presidential election? And that is where it would be still a challenge, because you see now the government itself, the executive, will still be participating in those elections, either whether the president is still running or defending his seat or not. The police who should protect, because the protection that we can be guaranteed is that there must be sufficient security to these individuals, these officials.
Yes.
And that is provided by the
Elections
police.
Act.
Election, yes, it is.
Through the police.
Yes. But now if you realize, if you find a partisan police service, then there becomes a challenge. But we believe we have an independent police service. That is why we change from police force to police service. We have a service that is very, very independent. So we believe, and Kenyans hope, that we're going to the next elections. We believe that we will never have a contested elections again, contested presidential elections. And then the country would move forward. You know, the contested elections always interfere with the economy. And if economy is messed up, people are messed up.
And of which now brings in another matter, and it was raised also through the Maraga decision. It's about the transmission of the results. There is 2 ways to do about it. There's the electronic way, and there is the paper-based way with cross-checks. And you know, there was so much about the GPS of the KIMS kit, the GPS position, where they were located. Can they give their location if asked and transmit the results? Then which is the best way to go about this, having learned from 2017 with the Supreme Court having made a decision on the results, on the path of on the results path, and finally making sure that it is implemented effectively?
What should happen is this: technology is here with us. We can never try to go back to the paper-based whatever. I will not advocate for it. We must embrace technology, but this technology must be audited. That is why we talked about the audit of elections, which has not been done. The servers have never been audited. You realize even in the recent Kiambaba election, there was a tweet before the end of the election where the Honorable MP for Gatundu, Moses Kuria, said they have spotted some individual running to a certain planet with KIMS kit. So those are the kind of things that the issues of GPS location, so that we know this KIMS kit is at a certain particular location, and that is the location where voting is taking place. So this boils down to audit. If we audit our electoral process, we will know the challenges. What should we improve? What should we done? What should we actually ensure that we continue with that acted perfectly? So these are about audits. So we cannot go back about paper-based process. The electronic technology is here, and you remember about the issue of voter register. Which one is the real register? The green book or the black book or what?
Or the one that's in the soft copy. But it brings another issue then. Then how do you, for example, cater for somebody who may have lost an arm or may have been born without an arm in that case, such that you can pick the ordinary biometrics, which would be a fingerprint or a thumbprint?
We don't have electronic voting. We have electronic voter registration.
Yes,
we just register. So if someone really, and because we have even the Juakali artisans, it might have interfered with your fingerprints or what. But we know we have other. The commission must ensure that they come up with other alternative modes of verification to ensure that this is Daniel Wahome, this is Charles Omanga. So even if I have lost my arm, God forbid, or for whatever reason my biometrics cannot be properly captured. Yes. So those are the issues of audit, because when we continue with audit, we will know whatever those whose biometrics, those who have died, those who should be struck off of the register, because you realize that there was complaints about even dead people still voting.
Yeah.
So if we do this audit and actually we make Kenyans very patriotic in terms of electoral process, they will know that there is no reason whatsoever for any person to persuade you to take an identification card of a dead person. And you see now why the biometrics is also important. If you come with an identification or a voter card, which is not really very important, with an ID of a dead person, the biometrics, your biometrics and his biometrics is really different.
But the Election Offences Act says you should be arrested. And then how does the IEBC then come in to ensure that, you know, fraud, bribery, things do not happen, because it is their officers, however temporary they may be as returning officers or presiding officers, who've got to make a call and inform their assigned police officer.
You know what happens is this calls for the patriotism in an individual, because for you even to engage in such a criminal act as an individual, you must know, you must have a guilty conscience that actually what I'm doing is wrong. And these things are always done through persuasions. There are certain individuals who have interest in electoral process, who are interested in the results and the outcome of each and every elections, that persuades people. So we can never end this thing as an instant coffee solution, but it is a process. That is why we must continuously and ensure that we have a sustained voter education, so that the commission ensure that each and every citizen knows that if someone persuades you or attempts to participate in an electoral fraud, you know you will be culpable. So this, you know, some people think that participating or going to use an ID of a dead person is not an offense, because maybe they don't know.
That is impersonation.
Yes, so they don't know. So you must ensure that these people are told, and Kenyans understand that if you do so, you will be culpable, and it is a criminal act.
Then how does the IBC work? We saw this with the interviews for the Office of the Chief Justice. There was what was consistently said, working across the various government offices or office bearers, where, for example, the judiciary has to work with the executive. In this case, this independent commission has got to work with the executive, who are the holders of the national registration, who are in charge of the National Registration Bureau. How much work needs to be done to ensure that consistently, if someone has passed on, has died, then their name is taken off the voter register in good time?
You know, one of the key principles of public service is being accountable for individual acts. Accountability, one of the key principles of public service. So if you are an officer that have been given, and you know, authority is a public trust that is being exercised on behalf of Kenyans. So if you know that this is what you should do, you must know that you will be accountable for whatever you do, either act or omission. So the issue of being accountability is key. But you know, some of these things, some individuals always find themselves to various public offices, not basically that they really qualify, but for whatever interest or whoever is pushing or whoever is trying to ensure that they get those positions. But we know we are, as a society, we are making steps going forward. We know we will reach a certain point where each and every office will be occupied by people who are qualified for those positions, not people who have been put to serve certain particular interests.
And Advocate Charles Omanga with us in conversation, and looking at the task ahead for the commissioners. 36 of them, only 4 will get the job, and they have been interviewed for the past 1.5 weeks. We know the interviews are coming to a close this week. We're in day 9. Tomorrow has been declared a public holiday, which means that there's not going to be interviews. They'll have to run until Friday. And Wakili, let me come into something else that came up from things we've observed over the by-elections that were here. And IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati had to remind the public and everyone else working about the sanctity of a polling station. It means that there are people who normally would move around, but this time around they're told do not be there. You could be a super agent, you could be an administrator in government, or you could just be a person, a voter. The moment you cast your ballot, if you are not an agent or a contesting candidate, then you've got to leave immediately, and the radius is 400 meters or required. How do we then implement that?
I think we must also give echo to the Wafula Chebukati and team for what happened in Kiambaa by-election. You saw it was witnessed. He was even telling the administrators, the chiefs, that please, you have got no role here. Kindly leave. And even the police ensured that they are not really inside where they are not really required to be. And the public also, we must also congratulate people of Kiambaa and Muguga. They kept off. There was, this time we did not witness what was witnessed in Juja by-election. So the commission is really endeavoring to ensure that actually they implement those kind of proposals and whatever the law requires. So what happened in Kiambaa, there was no chaos, there was no police interference. The administrators, the chairman himself was there and actually reminded the public. And actually there is always a saying that goes that even if you hate someone, at least say the truth about them. So actually what the chairman Wafula Chebukati did in the Kiambaa by-election, Kenyans should say thank you, because he ensured that, and actually you see when people follow the law, everything runs smoothly. There was no violence, there was no pushovers, there was no complaints. The police didn't have difficult time. They were there and ensured that everything went smoothly as planned.
Now, the other thing that I'd like to bring in is relationship with political parties, because at times the political parties push their nominations so close to the 3 months required before the general elections takes place that it's two things happen. The Iebc has a difficult time verifying the information from the nomination process, and number two, the decision to admit an independent candidate. How should this commission work around the electoral calendar?
What they should do, because the law is very clear about what the times for nominations, what we should ensure that is, let us not take these laws as mere pieces of legislation. We must actually ensure that we implement them. And political parties should be put on notice, because they are the major contributors to this electoral fraud. Because they also actually, the internal party nominations itself is a fraud. They fraudulently try to rig out other candidates, and that is why they push it so close, so that they think that you will not have an opportunity to have any other alternative. So the commission should ensure that they must ensure that whatever calendar they are trying to put up, because we are nearing the next election, political parties must be told at this particular time, you must ensure that we have the names of your candidates, so that they can also verify their documents, they can verify whether they consent to the ethical standards, because this is why we sometimes get some not really qualified leaders in positions, because there is no time even to verify. Then this information come much later, that there is nothing we could do. You can also not blame the commission, and these political parties, these individuals, they are again the ones who blame the commission, but it is them who actually put so much pressure.
Playing victim when they have the perpetrator.
Actually.
Well, Advocate Charles Omanga, telling us about the task ahead for the 4 persons who are going to be selected out from 36 by the panel that is the selection panel that is chaired by Dr. Elizabeth Muli. We take a short break and we come back and close this conversation before we go back to KCC, where the selection panel will be interviewing Advocate Murshid Abdallah Mohammed. Welcome back to News Check on this Monday morning. It's the 19th day of July 2021. It is day number 9 of the interviews for the candidates of the for the position of IEBC commissioner. And this morning we had Professor Michael Napo Ilukwol Lokuruka from Turkana County. He is a former member of the Public Service Commission, Director of Research, Innovation and Extension at the Karatina University, and he's been an advisor to the former Ministry of Northern Kenya and also the county government, and also a Center for Minority Rights and Development. Also coming up after this is going to be Advocate Murshid Abdallah. He's from Mombasa County. He has been a member of the National Police Service Commission from 2012 to 2018, and that is the gentleman that we are seeing on the screen. And he was also a member of the Interim Independent Boundaries Review Commission from 2008 to 2009. Advocate Charles Omanga has a closing word before we move over to KICC. Who are the people that these commissioners really need to take care of, given the current electoral setup, looking at election offences, ensuring campaigns are done within funds, and also that especially when it comes to the declaration of results?
First of all, those who should be taken care of are the voters, not even the contestants, the voter, first of all, and the special interest groups, the disabled, the whatever, the special and the minority groups. Those are the people that should be taken care of. And more importantly, the constituency returning officer, because you remember that the decision, the Maina Kia's case, give a task not now on the commission but these individuals, the presiding officers and the returning constituency returning officers. These are the most important people that the commission should really ensure that those whom they are taking to be constituency returning officers, because there the declaration of the presidential results, what they declare there is final.
They also have got to declare the national member of the National Assembly,
the MCA, member of County Assembly.
So they are dealing with about 2,400 elected people.
You see, now these are the people who should be protected. Because now, you know, previously, like the Kivitu Commission, the Electoral Commission, ECK, really was the overall. But now you see, now with the current dispensation, we have now these individuals being very important people. In that kind of the dispensation, those people were not really matter. But the commission itself, the chairman is the one to say whatever, and that is final. So those who the commission must ensure that is protected. One is those returning the voter first of all. And then secondly, the constituency returning officers and these presiding officers, because these are individuals that are very much exposed, because they are the commission is here at Bomas or whichever place that they would be. But those who are there on the ground, they are the people who bear the brunt and the burden, because you know there is a lot of pressure on these individuals. That is why the commission must ensure that the Kenya, we don't lack people with integrity and people who can be very patriotic. They must ensure, the commission must ensure that Kenyans are given people who are independent, who are patriotic, people with integrity, people who are trusted, that will ensure that to guarantee and deliver an uncontested election.
Well, there you've had Advocate Charles Omanga. Let's now listen into the IBC interviews that are taking place at the KICC, and we've got Advocate Murshid Abdallah, who is an advocate of the High Court, and he is a candidate. He was a candidate for chairperson of the IBC in 2011, and also served as a member of the National Police Service Commission for 6 years, 2012 to 2018, and was a member of the Interim Independent Boundaries Review Commission from 08 to 09. Over to the interview of Advocate Murshid Abdallah. Thank you very much, Advocate Omanga. And remember, from the Advocate Abdallah Mohammed's interview, we shall be joined by Ben Chumba on our new news product, Kurunzi Mashinani. Ben Chumba will be hosting us from noon. Have a good day. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo.